new technology that could change political races in this country forever. This is a big deal.
This is a game changer. We've always had politicians who lie.
No.
What we're facing now is a tidal wave of disinformation. We stop being able to tell what's real and what's not. Democracy's truest enemy is apathy.
How easy is it to create, say, a voice clone of yourself?
Very easy. It's a matter of seconds.
That's scary. Well, in case you haven't heard, it's an election year. And that means plenty of people are out to fool you and me. Not just with false campaign promises, there might be a few of those floating around, but also with a new technology that could change political races in this country forever. I'm talking about artificial intelligence, or AI. You may have heard about people using AI services like ChatGPT or OpenAI to write emails or to enhance internet searches. There are also many great ways to use AI. I've used it to help me reach the Hispanic community. I don't speak fluent Spanish, but for me to be able to allow my Spanish-speaking viewers to see important interviews from former President Donald Trump to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, I didn't need to speak Spanish or use Spanish subtitles or even an interpreter. AI was able to make me into a fluent Spanish-speaking journalist. You won't believe how real it looks and sounds. Take a look.
La semana pasada, 12 jurados deliberaron y emitieron un veredicto culpable de 34 cargos de falsificación de registros comerciales contra Donald Trump. ¿No cuestiona su toma de decisiones y la confianza en ellas cuando hay tantas críticas de medios de comunicación y líderes mundiales? Miren, a la comunidad internacional no pueden, por un lado, hablar del derecho de Israel a ejercer la autodefensa.
Now, I've generated that, but haven't used it yet because I'm wrestling back and forth. I think it's important to take down language barriers for certain populations, but I think you have to use safeguards. Like on that clip, we have translated or generated by AI. I think it's important, if you do that, to engage the viewer where they have to click at least and acknowledge, I understand that this is a translation AI for my convenience. I think you have to affirmatively have them say, I understand this. Because I don't want anybody to be confused. I'm not trying to impress anybody that I all of a sudden speak fluent Spanish, or that Prime Minister Netanyahu does. But AI is also being used to create damaging, defamatory content, like using someone's real photos to create fake images of them engaging in a crime, or taking a recording of someone's real voice and manipulating it to make them say something offensive. It's called deepfakes. And some of them are done so well, you would think they were real. And it's not just online trolls doing this. Both Democrats and Republicans have used AI in political attacks. Some lighthearted, others not so nice.
This just in, we can now call the 2024 presidential race for Joe Biden.
I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color.
Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday.
Well, some of those images you just saw were created by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a nonprofit organization working to stop the spread of online hate and disinformation. Imran Ahmed is the organization's CEO. His recent report, Fake Image Factories 2, How Midjourney is Failing to Prevent the Creation of AI Images That Threaten Elections, calls for urgent measures to combat misinformation and hold tech companies accountable. So, Imran, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
This is a big deal, right?
I think this is a game changer. And we've seen over the past few years a sort of a growth in the amount of lies in our politics. We've always had politicians who lie.
No.
But what we've seen now is a radical shift in which there are, in fact, lies as sort of the sheer bulk of them almost outweigh the truth.
Right.
And that's making it more and more difficult for voters to make a legitimate choice. Look, here's the truth. We have a right to make a decision, to hold our opinions, and they are protected by the First Amendment on candidates. But we want to know that we are holding those opinions based on facts and on truths. And every time someone spreads a lie, spreads disinformation, spreads a fake image or fake audio of someone, that actually takes away that most sacred and fundamental right. It makes a mockery of it. And we're seeing that grow and grow over time. And now we're seeing AI. Gosh, the cost of production of one of these things is literally zero. And then the cost of distributing it to potentially millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of American people and billions around the globe is, again, zero. And that's a charter for bad actors.
Paul Vallas ran for Chicago mayor, but he narrowly lost by just 4 points in the Democratic primary. And he blames, at least in part, a deep fake recording that sounded just like his voice, but spread a very controversial message that is opposite to everything he stands for. Take a look at this.
These days, people will accuse a cop of being bad if they kill one person that was running away. Back in my day, cops would kill, say, 17 or 18 civilians in their career, and nobody would bat an eye.
I believe that AI is dangerous and can impose a danger to really the democratic process by distorting a person's record. I was a candidate who made public safety a top priority. Chicago's had more murders than any city in the country, more mass shootings than any city in the country.
Crime is out of control, and combative leadership is failing us.
Paul Vallas will put crime and your safety first.
Because public safety was such a major issue, someone in support of my opponent was using AI to portray me as dismissive of police shootings. It sounded very much like me. They absolutely did.
We need to stop defunding the police and start refunding them.
The recordings were taken down, but they were up for a couple days, and at the end of the day, about 250,000 people saw it. I believe that the AI deepfake recordings had an impact of 15,000, 20,000 people who voted for Johnson would have voted for me. I'd be running the city of Chicago right now.
Well, Paul, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This demonstrates the danger of this kind of thing. How close to the actual election did this come out?
This came out right before the primary, and so I would say within about 6 weeks. And it wasn't the only video. My son, for example, is a police officer who was involved in a shooting, which was obviously a legitimate shooting. And there was also a deep fake video done of him, too, that had his voice, even though his microphone was broken, and had a picture of somebody who was very well tattooed. Of course, my son has no tattoos. And, of course, that one spread. And I spent about 2 days answering media questions about it, too. So clearly there was this desire to portray my stance on public safety as someone who did not believe in police accountability, and for somebody who kind of simply dismissed the shootings of civilians.
Do you know who created the deepfake?
No.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. And what happens is, even when they take it down, of course, people continue to repost it over and over and over again. So it was a constant reminder. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, I'm an old history teacher, so I like to point out that if you read the ancient historians, when they talk about characters going back 2,000 years, it pretty much sounds like the personalities and the jealousies and the egos that you experience today. It's
right.
The problem is, you know, people have been trying to describe or create alternate narratives on their opponents for really centuries. It's just our technology has become more advanced.
Now, he launched his presidential campaign by creating an AI version of himself. You did this on purpose because you wanted to showcase how AI has a role or can have a role in this, and people need to be aware of it.
Absolutely. Although I should say the reason I got in the race in the first place is that back in October, November, I remember that Joe Biden had said he was going to be a transitional figure, and I kept waiting for Joe to say that he was going to withdraw. And he never said he was going to withdraw. And I could tell he was getting older and that he was getting slower. And so I'm an entrepreneur and an investor. And I asked a number of my CEOs, I said, what would happen if someone like me got in the race? And pretty universally, my CEOs said, you should totally do that. That would be very different. An example of a business person who's running for president, who's completely the opposite of President Trump. I invest in impact companies. Education technology is my forte. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know I was going to do the AI thing that you saw up there at the beginning. But when people started volunteering for my campaign, I would always ask them, they wanted to knock on doors. And I said, well, what's your superpower? This is what I've always done as an entrepreneur. And one of them said, well, you know, right now my superpower is I'm building some AI tech for my company. And it hit me just like that. I said, wait a minute, I probably could build an AI version of myself. And maybe this would be the first time AI could actually play a role in the election. So to be honest with you, what you could see a demo of, it just cost $30,000 to build by me and my team of volunteers over the course of a month.
Well, we put Jason's avatar to the test and asked it some random questions. Let's take a look at how it worked.
I support a guest worker program for migrants who do not qualify for asylum but have American citizens in their extended family who are willing to sponsor them. I believe that discussing my favorite musician is not relevant to my presidential campaign. Is there anything else you would like to know about my policies or plans for the country?
For the record, Billy Joel is my favorite musician. We just didn't load it into the database.
So you have a problem with any campaign that uses an avatar.
Yeah.
What's your problem with it?
You know, the lack of authenticity. I mean, my approach in all the public service jobs I've had as a superintendent 4 times, Chicago, Philadelphia, New Orleans after Katrina, was always to communicate directly to people and to be authentic in communicating. I was really impressed, incidentally, with your ability to communicate using AI in Spanish and things like that. But that lack of authenticity, I think, undermines. There's just a certain dishonesty to it. And I always believe that the candidate should be authentic.
You have even a bigger problem with it. You think it's bad news bears all the way.
It's a creative way of communicating with people, of trying to get your values across. I think the actual product itself will give me nightmares for the next 2 to 3 nights, because that is a weird-looking avatar. But at the same time, here's the thing with things like that. They all seem innocuous at first, right? The point comes, though, where we're so overwhelmed with this sort of stuff that we stop being able to tell what's real and what's not. And that point is the point of greatest peril for democracy.
Brandon Armature is a professor at Utah Valley University and a cybersecurity expert. He works with Suremark Digital, an online identity verification company that combats deepfakes and provides digital IDs for political candidates. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Before I even ask you a question, I'm going to say a lot of this comes down to all of us being vigilant and paying attention. One of the things that you do is teach people how to figure these things out. What do voters need to worry about? How do we spot these things?
So the first thing is actually a principle that's not necessarily new. But if you see something that is so outrageous or seems too good or too bad to be true, that should immediately put up, red flags in your mind. Another thing is think about how difficult it would be to create this deepfake, right? So something that is maybe short form, you have, TikTok and Instagram Reels, which are these very short form media, or an image with voice over it, right. And it's something really outrageous. That should definitely set off alarm bells. Now, the other thing that I'll say out front is everything I'm going to cover is of things to look for. These are limitations that the technology has right now. 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, that may not be the case. We may get to a point very quickly where it is photorealistic. It's almost indiscernible. Now, the thing that I would say in terms of this election is we are probably going to see some hijinks and some issues arise in this current election, as we already have, unfortunately. But I think what we really need to be concerned about is at some point over the next couple of years, we're going to cross that photorealistic threshold.
Yeah.
And the future elections, 2026, 2028, could be very, very difficult if we don't get out in front of this.
And how do you get out in front of it?
So something that we are trying to do right now at UVU is, one, we want to launch this pilot program to start testing technology solutions for candidates to verify the content they put out. And two, one of the biggest problems is it's hard to quantify the problem. Oftentimes people ask me, well, how big of a problem is this? It's a very difficult thing to say, right? So one thing that we're doing is we're working with a neuroscience lab that is typically used to do marketing studies to test how effective are deepfakes in terms of how believable are they? What do people's brain scans look like when they're looking at it, responding to that versus authentic content? So we can try to measure, okay, how close are we to actually crossing that threshold? Are people actually buying this? Is this eliciting some kind of even an unconscious response that this is not authentic?
And what are you finding?
Thus far, we're still in the pre-study phase, but the one thing I will say is that the appetite for this has been absolutely massive in terms of a lot of people, regardless of sector, public sector, private sector, academia, are looking into the future, nonprofit are looking into the future and are seeing how big of a problem this could become very quickly.
This morning, Brandon met up with Jamie, a local talk radio host who was willing to participate in a demonstration to show just how easy it is for AI to manipulate your voice. Take a look.
All I really need from you is about 30 seconds of clear audio. So just speak slowly, clearly, and naturally. So don't feel any pressure. Tell me a little bit about yourself, maybe some things that you're interested in, and some things that you don't like.
All right, cool. So my name is Jamie D. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. I moved to Dallas, Texas 2 months ago, and I'm a live morning radio personality and recording artist. And some of my hobbies are playing volleyball, playing tennis. I'm a big foodie. I love to eat. Dallas has so many different restaurants, so I love everything about the food scene here in Dallas. I like to be social, so go out to bars and different events around town. Some things that I don't like, I would say I'm not into shopping as much, or rodeos, or going out to the ranch and wrangling cows and all this like that. But it's cool to watch. That's just not my everyday thing.
Okay, now that we've got these samples, all I'm really gonna be doing is running it through an algorithm, and it will be ready.
Nice.
There it is, it's done.
Already?
It's done.
Oh, wow, that's insane.
That was pretty quick, right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And you were just talking in your regular voice, right?
Yeah, my regular Jamie D voice.
Okay. And so we gave you a little script you didn't have before. In fact, I worked on it a little bit myself. Let's see if we have him saying some things that he didn't say and probably would never say.
Welcome back to PBR on Merritt Street, the biggest and most exciting bull riding league in the world. We have all the top teams, from the Arizona Ridge Riders to the New York Mavericks. There's always plenty of action, upsets, spills, thrills, and excitement. And who will survive the 8 seconds? It's all here on Merritt Street. And the big news is I am riding a bull for the first time on national television. I can't wait.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm excited to hear you're riding a bull.
Right, I'm like, went from saying I wouldn't be on a ranch at all to literally riding a bull today.
Yeah. So did it sound like you to you?
To me, no, because I know what my voice sounds like. I feel it in my body. But for somebody who doesn't talk to me every day or just get snippets of me, I can so see how that would confuse them.
Mm. If there's going to be something where they're cloning and putting something out, it's probably going to be very close to the election. So the individual that's victimized doesn't have time to fight back, doesn't have time to offset. So just be aware, if there's some big news that comes out, and if it's coming out of the candidate's mouth real close to the election, be aware, I really need to cross-check this before I let it influence. We have to be doing our due diligence to verify if something is right or if it's not.